Language of power. How mother tongue education became the latest educational red herring.
Support learning and quality learning in the foundation phase, the department continues to roll out mother tongue-based bilingual education program, training teachers in bilingual methods and providing quality support materials.
My first reaction to that announcement? Resistance. Not because I'm against mother tongue education, it's quite the opposite. But because I've seen this pattern before, the grand announcement, the allocated budget, the progressive language, and then the systematic failure that follows. I want to be clear. I'm usually the person getting frustrated when change happens too slowly. I've admitted before that my patience with educational dysfunction can be intense. So when I find myself being skeptical of what appears to be progress, I have to pause and ask why. Because honestly, even imperfect progress might be better than 30 years of constitutional violations. Even a flawed initiative might move us forward from the complete inaction we've seen. But when you've witnessed the pattern of well-intentioned reforms becoming tools of the very system they claim to challenge, skepticism becomes a survival skill. Welcome back to the Bell Rebellion. I'm Esme, and today we're diving into how even the most progressive sounding educational initiatives can become sophisticated forms of institutional misdirection. You see, this isn't really a story about language policy. It's a story about how educational systems maintain power through sophisticated forms of suppression, whether that's keeping children cognitively dependent on colonial language frameworks or preventing them from developing genuine digital literacy that would make them technologically independent. Let me introduce you to a concept I think we desperately need: knowledge washing. You know how companies use greenwashing to appear environmentally conscious while continuing harmful practices? Knowledge washing is when educational systems announce progressive sounding initiatives while maintaining the very structures that created the problems in the first place. And this mother tongue based bilingual education initiative, it has all the hallmarks of knowledge washing. Don't get me wrong, authentic mother tongue education could be transformative. When children can think and reason and explore complex concepts in a language that shapes their worldview, incredible things can happen. Language doesn't just carry information, it creates cognitive frameworks. But this is what's made me suspicious. We're talking about a sophisticated language pedagogy while children are still falling into pit latrines at school and dying. We're debating bilingual education frameworks while schools lack electricity, proper buildings, and trained teachers. It's like planning a gourmet meal while people don't have access to clean or running water. But what I really want you to understand about how these systems work: educational institutions operate like a thermostat. They're designed to maintain a specific temperature, regardless of external changes. Right. Now, in South Africa, we don't typically have thermostats in our homes, but when I lived in the US, the house I lived in did have one. I couldn't quite understand the system, so I would always open my window for fresh air, because obviously in South Africa, that's what we do. I couldn't figure out why me opening the window for fresh air would inevitably make the house hotter, and why the thermostat was having to work so hard. The system wasn't embracing the fresh air and allowing the temperature to drop naturally. Instead, it detected my disruption and cranked up the heat even more to maintain the exact degree setting. And that's exactly what's happening with educational systems. Educational systems work exactly the same way, whether the potential disruption is authentic mother tongue education, genuine literacy, or any form of learner empowerment. The system responds by working harder to maintain its original setting, dependency, and control. And here's the deeper insight from systems theorist Danella Meadows. What a system values, it protects. And if you want to understand any system, be it relational, organizational, don't listen to what it says it values. Watch what it actually protects. The education system doesn't just randomly resist change. It's protecting what it actually values most: its ability to sort, control, and maintain hierarchies. So the MTBE initiative isn't really about embracing linguistic diversity. The educational thermostat cranking up the heat to counteract the cold air of potential cognitive sovereignty. The system expends energy, 57 million rand worth, not to change the temperature, but to maintain it while appearing to respond to pressure to reform. What really got my attention when I started digging deeper, I discovered something that should outrage every South African parent. The language and education policy already requires mother tongue education in the foundation phase. It's based on Section 29(2) of our Constitution, which provides every learner the right to receive basic education in the language of their choice. This isn't a new policy. This has been constitutional law for 30 years. So then why is the Department of Basic Education acting like this initiative is some revolutionary breakthrough? If mother tongue education has been constitutionally required since 1994, why hasn't it been implemented? And why are they announcing with great fanfare what should have been happening all along? The answer reveals the depth of deception. They've been violating constitutional education rights for 3 decades. And now they want credit for fixing it with an initiative that's likely designed to fail. This brings me to the most important question every South African parent or guardian needs to ask. And it's a question I learned the hard way during my own journey through educational institutions. Do the core values of your child's school align with your values for your child's future? Not what they say they value in their mission statements or their marketing materials. What do they actually protect? What do they invest their energy in maintaining? When I was working in educational environments where my approaches were getting results, I discovered that those institutions weren't protecting student success or innovative teaching. They were protecting compliance, conformity, and existing power structures. My core values: genuine learning, student empowerment, educational innovation. And that fundamentally didn't align with what those systems actually valued. And no amount of good intentions or individual effort could bridge the gap. The same principle applies to every educational choice you make for your child. Ask yourself, does your child's school protect and value compliance over creativity, memorization over understanding, dependency over agency, English supremacy over cognitive sovereignty? Or does it genuinely protect and value critical thinking and problem solving, independence and self direction, cultural pride and linguistic diversity, technological agency and digital wisdom? Because if there's a fundamental misalignment between what the system protects and what you value for your child's future, no amount of good individual teachers or expensive facilities can overcome that structural contradiction. This values alignment question becomes even more critical when we consider something I promised to explore deeper from our last episode: the systematic suppression of genuine digital literacy. Because what's happening with language policy is exactly what's happening with technology education. Instead of developing technological sovereignty, the ability to understand, evaluate, and even build digital tools, we get consumers trained to use whatever platforms the tech giants provide. Instead of teaching to think critically about technology, we get digital citizenship, programs that essentially teach compliance with existing digital power structures. It's the same thermostat effect. Any educational approach that might create technologically literate, critically thinking digital citizens gets neutralized and replaced with programs that maintain dependency while appearing progressive. The families who recognize this pattern, whether in language policy or digital literacy, will ensure their children develop genuine capabilities. The families who don't will watch their children become sophisticated consumers of other people's systems rather than creators of their own solution. This brings me to the most important point of today's episode. We no longer live in a society where parents can afford to disengage from educational policy and practice. The old social contract is dead. You can't just drop your child off at school, trust the system to educate them properly, and then pick them up expecting good outcomes. The system is broken, and the stakes are too high. Parents need to become educational advocates for their own children. This means asking forensic questions about what actually is happening in your child's classroom. Questions like, why does my child receive 3 periods of Zulu, but 5 periods of Afrikaans FAL per week? Why is the Xhosa FAL exam so much simpler than the English FAL exam? Can you show me evidence that my child understands these concepts, not just that they've memorized information? What digital literacy skills is my child actually developing beyond learning to use specific apps? Is my child learning to think critically about technology or to just consume it? So, how do parents protect their children from this systematic dysfunction? First, by understanding that you are now your child's primary educational advocate. The system will not do this for you. Second, by learning to distinguish between memorization and understanding. If teachers can only show you test scores based on memorization, that's a red flag. Third, by demanding equal standards across languages. Don't accept the soft bigotry of lowered expectations for African languages. Fourth, by focusing on fundamental skills that transcend both language and technology: critical thinking, problem solving, creativity, and the ability to learn how to learn. Fifth, by ensuring your child develops genuine digital literacy alongside linguistic capability. In an AI integrated world, the ability to think critically about technology becomes as important as the ability to think critically in any language. As I've been forecasting, we're approaching a critical juncture in education, the great educational divergence. Isn't some distant future possibility. It's happening now through policies like this Mother Tongue Initiative. We can choose to see through the knowledge washing and demand genuine educational transformation, or we can allow ourselves to be distracted by progressive sounding initiatives that maintain the status quo while appearing to challenge it. The families who learn to decode these systems, who understand the difference between educational theatre and genuine learning, who demand rigorous standards regardless of the language, their children will thrive. The families who don't will watch their children get shortchanged without even realizing it's happening. This is why the Bell Rebellion exists, not to tear down all institutions, but to help you see through institutional deception, not to reject all reform, but to distinguish between genuine transformation and sophisticated misdirection. The system is counting on your complacency, your willingness to be impressed by announcements rather than demanding results, your acceptance of lowered standards disguised as cultural sensitivity. Your children deserve better. They deserve learning environments that honor their linguistic heritage and prepare them for the global competitiveness. They deserve a system that sees their potential rather than managing their limitations. But they won't get it unless you fight for it, unless you become the educational advocate your child needs in an age of systematic educational dysfunction. Next time on the Bell Rebellion, we'll dive deep into what genuine digital literacy looks like, why it's being systematically suppressed, and how parents can ensure their children develop technological agency rather than digital dependency. Because as we've seen today, whether it's a language policy or technology education, the pattern is the same: sophisticated systems of control disguised as progressive reform. Understanding this pattern is the first step towards ensuring your child develops genuine capability rather than sophisticated dependency. This has been the Bell Rebellion. I'm Esme, and thank you for joining me in seeing through the knowledge washing and demanding genuine educational transformation.